podcast. And today we're going to talk about fueling dreams and fighting limits. Something that actually is interesting because we all do that from time to time or struggle with that from time to time. And we're having a conversation with Alex Bell, and I'm so excited about that. Hi, Alex.
Hey Britt, how's it going?
So Alex Bell is an elite British middle distance runner, particularly the 800-meter event. And she's competed for Great Britain in the 800 meters in the 2020 Summer Olympics in Tokyo, and for England in the 2018 and 2022 Commonwealth Games. And she's also participated in the 2019 World Championships in Doha, where she reached semifinals, and she also reached her personal best time. And she also understands that through nutrition and integrating superfoods into the diet, how she can improve, or how you can improve performance and also recovery.
First of all, thank you for having me and hosting me on the podcast today. It's so nice to be with you and the rest of your followers. And
So,
then,
Alex,
yeah,
if you look back to your early days, did you ever think that you'd actually be running on the Olympic stage?
no, it was always a dream as a child. I mean, that's always the pinnacle of any sport that you're in. The top of that sport is the Olympics, and everybody wants to be on that global stage. And it was always something I always said that would be a dream. That'd be a dream. But like I said, not until I actually made my 20s did I actually believe it would become a reality.
So when you were in your 20s and you actually committed to the sport, what shifted actually for you?
Everything came into my life. So I actually switched coaches at this point, and my coach Andrew Henderson, he was fantastic. He introduced well, at the time, a nutritionist,
Okay.
strength and conditioning,
Yeah.
psychology, this whole the whole shebang of what comes with elite sport. And he wanted to embed a structure in me quite early on when I moved, and under his coaching responsibility, if you will. And we wanted to do things right,
Yeah.
even though it was quite delayed. Mid-20s is quite, dare I say, old for the athletes.
Mm.
I was quite new to the sport in essence. I'd been out and not competed for a long time, so it was very important that we had all the right elements in place to be able to pursue in
So
that dream.
so even I know when you hit standards, you were sometimes actually overlooked. And I just wonder, how did you actually manage? Because this is something I think that is really um, pertinent for all of us. You know, we are not always supported by our family or our friends or in our professional life. But so when you actually were sometimes overlooked, how did you manage to stay focused and actually fuel your body and your mind? How did you manage that?
Some days I didn't, if I'm completely honest with you. It was very tough. Um, some people from outside of sport may just see it as like, oh, it's just sport. But
Mm.
when you've got sponsorships, contracts, and a lot of pressure relies on you to make teams and to
Yeah.
make money and to make a living,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
hard, it's tough. And even when you're doing everything to the best of your ability and somebody still says no, it is very, very mentally, it does wear you down.
Mm.
Um, but the way that I responded and bounced back to that was to use it as fuel to a fire. And I think a lot of people can relate, whether it is sport or whether it's something in your job or family or any issue.
Mm.
Um, I always believe that things happen for reasons.
Yeah.
You might not know, you might be clueless to what that actually is, but I feel there is a purpose in that. And you might have to bide your time. It might make you take that time out to work on yourself or an element where you think that you're lacking in, and then you'll come back stronger using that fuel as,
So
to
I
make your
suppose what you're
fire as big as
suggesting.
possible.
Yes, I suppose what you're suggesting, Alex, is actually when we are, or when you were meeting challenges or people who were doubting you and so on, you kind of, what did you do? You kind of went inside yourself and says, I am going to do that. Is that how you managed to
Course.
do that?
Yeah, I'm a Scorpio, so we're very stubborn,
Ah!
and we will not be told no if we know that something's right, really leaving the right and the wrong. And yeah, like I said, things happen for a reason. And if it is that particular moment in time that's not working out, we went back into training. We did everything that we could. We made sure that no leaf was, not turned over, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah,
And I actually worked with a sports psychologist as well through a lot of it, which really helped.
yeah.
Um, You have to have a lot of patience. I didn't quite believe in the procedure at first, but it takes a few sessions for you to gain that trust and that momentum. But to try and piece things together and to be as resilient and mentally strong as I possibly could, that worked well for me.
Yeah.
But
I
I
do
think as
find it.
well, I think the key thing is to make sure that you have your own goals, have your targets, write things down, make them visible, and
Mm,
regardless of what anybody says or what
yeah,
consequences are in front of you, you
yeah.
can smash them down and just keep digging, and one day
Yeah,
that you
I
will
think
achieve
that's
it.
something we can all use for our lives. This thing about, okay, so what do I actually want to achieve, whether it is in your personal, relationship, whether it's at work, whether it's with your kids, but actually understand what is it I really want to make come true, what is it I actually really want to achieve, and then write it down. I think
100%.
that's great. I do that myself and actually make like a concrete kind of almost affirmation target, thank you, I have now reached this and this, and kind of you visualize that. That sometimes happens where, when I'm talking to people who have health problems. Very recently, I was talking to a lady who had great problems with eczema and it's a real itching and had it for 10, 12 years, long, long, long time. And when I actually asked her and I sort of said to her, well, visualize you, Susan, completely healthy, lovely glowing skin, all calm skin. What does that feel like? And she actually struggled with that for a little bit. And we actually took a bit like almost like coaching session to kind of, okay, wow. And then when she did that, it's like, wow, okay, I get that now. Wow, that is an amazing feeling. And then asked her, so what do you think you might be able to replace in your diet to reach that feeling? And then suddenly it became much easier because she visualized herself healthy. And then the route to getting there was suddenly an easier one to visualize. Interesting.
100%. Yeah, I mean, visualization is such a key component. It's so powerful when you get it right, and it is classed as a skill.
Mm,
So a skill is only mastered if you repeat it. So you
mm,
can't just be like, oh, I'm going to affirm that. I'm going to visualize that one day and hope for the best on the start line, for instance. It's
mm.
something that you have to repeat. So Susan, say she must have had to work on her mental strategy for quite some time for her to have that realization one morning, like, yeah, I can do that. I can be that. So it takes
Okay.
time, it takes
Exactly.
patience, but once you've knacked it, I think, yeah, it is so powerful. The mind is so
And
powerful.
I want to move on and talk a little bit about how, your routine every day, your nutritional routine, your health routine. And I know that obviously the juices, the superfood juices, Britt superfoods have been part of your kind of routine for a while now. And I'm really keen to hear. So how did you come across us, and how are you kind of working with that concept now?
So Brit Superfoods, the juices have been incredible, to be honest with you. Introduced via social media. Um, and yeah, I've been trying them since I'd say September, October time last year, so 2024.
Mm.
And we spoke earlier, and I mentioned how 1% I call them. So in sport or anything in life, the marginal gains to, the peak performance, you're talking milliseconds, okay? A
Yeah, of
blink, an
course.
eyelash, it's
Exactly.
ridiculous between winning and losing.
Yeah.
And we're always, as an elite athlete, looking for what we can do to make sure that we are at the top of our game. And I've come across two juices in particular that are my personal favourites, which is the beetroot, which I currently have here, as we are now winding down for the evening. Um,
It looks
and
like
the
red
ginger and
wine.
exactly, I do put it in a wine glass because I
Yeah.
can't always indulge in a glass of wine, but if it looks like a glass of wine, I'm mentally, I'm there.
I just absolutely love that. And in a sense, that's kind of the same as bit like self-care, self-love, treating
Yeah,
yourself to something, and actually at
yeah.
the same time knowing that it's healthy. What a great way to do
Exactly. It
that.
does so much, honestly. It's not really known at the moment, but I'm put out there. But I can tell you from my experiences and my sleep tracking that my sleep and the
Mm,
recovery has been incredible. It does so much. It's an anti-inflammatory. It has nitrates in it, which it has the ability to be able to lower blood pressure, blood flow, and hence get you in that relaxed state of mind. And also, it's been shown and known to have natural regulating naturally to regulate your dopamine levels, which
Yeah.
hence puts me in the state of relaxation, and then the knock-on effect of having some great sleep, which
It's
is
just
key,
really
obviously is
exciting.
key.
I know, and it's so exciting how actually the role of nutrition in everyday health and wellness, but also, of course, recovery and performance, and how we forget about that. That literally the nutrients, the vitamins, the minerals, amino acids, and enzymes, how they literally are the building blocks to our body, to our health, our wellness, and performance. And I mean, it's interesting how we sometimes forget about that, but really our body is that. Just like a house has got, consists of bricks in a house wall, and if there's no bricks or cracked bricks, the wall will just fall down. It's the same with the nutrients. They are the building blocks to our body, and we just can't underestimate that, can we?
No, we definitely can't. And the one thing that I love as well, is how natural everything is of everything that you provide for the
Mm.
community. Because in elite sport, there's a lot of, things that we shouldn't have. There's advisories against certain products, there's drug testing, etc. But everything that is natural, I can't fault, I know that 100% what I'm putting in my body from Brit Superfood is safe. I
Yeah,
have the
it's
benefits
it's
that I need,
basically
and
like a
yeah,
it's basically like a natural food, and the reason why we call it a superfood is because it's a natural food that just happen to have very high levels of natural vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and enzymes. So it means we don't have to have a massive portion in order to gain this level of vitamins and nutrients. And so it's easy to take. That's the whole point, isn't it? I mean, with the wheatgrass, I have a shot here actually, but in one little shot like that, it's equivalent to 3 heads of broccoli, or a pound and a half, 600 gram of green vegetables in nutritional value. So suddenly you can just pack in a lot of natural nutrients in just not having to, chew yourself through 3 broccoli heads or whatever. And that's the difference. That is basically a
and
superfood.
that suits everybody's busy schedules as well. I mean, how often do you see people chopping the broccoli? You know what I mean? It's all time
Yeah.
consuming, and that's the convenience of it in just a sachet.
Yeah,
Just
yeah. So,
it's
so how
win-win.
would you say that the nutrition and what you're doing has helped you specifically in your everyday life, but also in your performance?
So, like I mentioned earlier, a second favorite of mine is the ginger and turmeric,
Mm.
and
Yeah,
being
that's
so healthy. Yeah, there we go.
the
Um, one of my
yellow.
favorites. And being so healthy, you are prone to a lot of. There's a fine line when you're at your fittest. You're at the fine line of being quite ill, because you're so, how can I say, you're so vulnerable because your immunity, everything's so healthy, everything's so fine, that if you were to go on the train and it's just so easily and susceptible to pick up things, and that's why you see a lot of athletes when they go to competitions, or when they don't go to social events, should I say. But we almost feel like we should be wrapped in cotton wool because of how susceptible and how fit we are throughout the season. We are also so shielded and like to be protected because of the vulnerability that we put ourselves in. But
And I suppose also because you really don't want to get ill just before a competition. That's the whole point. It
exactly,
will
exactly.
massively, hurt you, and yeah,
Yeah,
get,
yeah. But anything that we can take with anti-inflammatories in, or antioxidant, anything that can just help and boost and fight
yeah.
that to build your immunity up to fight all the nasties, should we say. Yeah, it's incredible. And we've mentioned before how easy it is to consume. Morning before coffee, don't even need coffee sometimes, and lunch if needs be, and like I say, on an evening for the wind down. It's become part of my routine,
Nice.
so easily. And yeah,
Wow.
I can't thank you enough for what you've done so far.
Really glad. I'm so happy to be part of your journey and
Oh,
supporting you with your, sports targets and your performance and recovery. I mean, that is just so lovely. I know you also mentioned that even non-athletes can benefit. So maybe you want to share a little bit about why you think that is?
I just think that you don't have to be an Olympian to prioritize your health.
Mm.
And health isn't always necessarily just what exercise you are doing or what necessarily you're consuming. It's a number of things, okay? There's so many different elements to what makes health.
Yeah.
And I feel, especially different times of the year from different countries that people are, like the vitamin D side of it, like in the UK especially, we don't see barely any sunlight. But there's health means so much to so many different people, and it's not just physical, it's an accumulative of many things. And something as small as your nutrition and, you know, nutrition values, or something that you could be lacking in a vitamin, it's you know, something as little as your vitamin D can have such a massive toll on somebody. Yeah, just
Yeah.
from a simple blood test. Like for me, I had a simple blood test, not feeling great. Vitamin D came back so low, and it
Mm.
affected so much. I didn't realize. It sounds so stupid to be like, I'm just lacking a bit of sunshine, but the power of vitamins and, you know, just the slight irregulation of what people's normal levels should be, it can knock you for six, really and truly. But everybody should prioritize their health in one way or another, whether that looks like self-care, friends, so, you know, taking a part of social,
Yeah.
coming off social media. It looks so different, and it's not just necessarily one thing, such as how healthy are you because of how much sport you do,
No,
sleep, you know,
absolutely.
mind,
And
well-being.
and also, I mean, it is really interesting the power of these vitamins and minerals that we have. I mean, for example, magnesium, which is one of two most important minerals in the body. And magnesium is really interesting. It's responsible for over 300 reactions in the body, and it's also the central molecule in anything green. So in the chlorophyll, it's the central molecule in chlorophyll. So the darker green, the more natural magnesium. And in these 300 reactions in the body, it's everything from recovery after sport. So if you get muscle cramps, well, it's a possibility that there is a lack of magnesium, but it's also actually good sleep patterns, but it's also even during hormonal changes, you know, for example, menopause or other times with, you know, with big hormonal changes. It's incredibly important with magnesium that we sleep better, that also even very, very interestingly, it's very much part of also concentration and healthy brain patterns and all of those different things. And we wouldn't even know it. And even, yeah, just taking some really, really dark green vegetables, of course, the wheatgrass juice, whatever, but then you just feed yourself that and you will feel the difference.
100%, yeah. And green, when you tell people who, you know, oh, you need all these vegetables, you need all this fruit. Yes, necessarily you do. And a lot of people avoid the greens, don't they? I mean, from a young age, a lot of people are, I'm not having sprouts, I'm not having broccoli. But if you were taught at such a young age at how powerful and how important those are,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah, yeah.
honestly, if we had these sachets, if we had the super green superfood at such a young age, you know, maybe I don't know, there'd be less problems in the
Yeah,
world health-wise. But
yeah.
yeah, we
I mean,
can only learn and we can all only grow, and you know, it's
yeah, I
it's
mean,
amazing what you're doing.
they have linked lack of nutrients, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and enzymes to many, many different things. I mean, all these lifestyle conditions are really attributed to not having enough nutrients, not eating enough fresh greens, which is really interesting. And these are what we call lifestyle illnesses. And it ranges from anything. I mean, and this is scientifically proven. That is obviously my background is in science. And it can be certain cancers, it can be digestive issues, menopausal problems, all sorts of different lifestyle illnesses. And approximately 80% of our illnesses are lifestyle illnesses and is actually attributed to wrong or too little nutrition. Very interesting.
It really is, honestly, really. I
And
wish
it's
I knew
also
more, and I wish I was educated more at a younger age, you know, within the
and,
sport as
and
well,
it's not
because
even and it is not
it's so
even
important.
physical health, it's also mental health. We forget about that. Mental health is also absolutely about what we put in our bodies. So it's the whole being basically that really benefits. I wanted to move on and I wanted to talk to you a little bit because I know about you've been overcoming setbacks and silencing doubters. And this is of course something that from mental health point of view, but also achieving our ambitions is incredibly important, and standing up for yourself, even, you know, proving critics wrong with your successes. I'm so interested in hearing that part of what you've been doing. I know you've been facing rejection head on, and you still rose to the top. And what kept you going? What made you continue against those odds?
Just the dream, literally writing the dream down and just not giving up until you achieve it.
Wow.
Whether
Okay.
it hurt and I cried and I, you know, however dark it got. Um, Again, like I mentioned, it's so cliche, but things happen for a reason, and I just was such a big believer in rejection and overcoming it to getting what you want. So the rejection for me throughout the sport was always being told you're too old. Obviously, entering the sport at a later age and not achieving what my fellow competitors had achieved up to that point. So
Mm.
being told that you're too old, that hurt because it made you
Wow.
think there's no place for you. Are you going to get picked just because of age? And then being told that you'd never make it at the top of your sport just because I wasn't on like a trajectory of hitting certain times.
Mm.
But yeah, there was lots of things that was said and were done and hurtful things, but I proved them wrong. I
Yeah.
managed to make it to the top of the sport. I
Amazing.
managed to finish seventh in the world at the Olympics and running the fastest time that had ever been ran. Well, three of us from the Great Britain, we made history. We've never had three Great Britain girls in a final of the 800 before,
Amazing.
which for me, it is the top of the sport. And that was the moment where I could breathe. Because
Right.
throughout all the setbacks,
Yeah.
all the tears, all the pain of someone saying, no, you can't, no, you won't, you will not make it. As soon as the race finished, it was just a sigh of just complete exhaustion, relief,
So was that the moment when
happiness.
you literally realized I proved them wrong?
Yeah, and more. Prove them wrong and prove myself right at the end of the day.
Wow.
I went through my career of using anger as fuel, and that moment of where it stopped, that cycle where it could finally stop and just achieve the best version of myself that I possibly could without having anyone put a finger on you saying that you couldn't do it or can't do it anymore. It was just a massive relief for me mentally, and I could still get emotional about it now because of how much um pain that was behind it at that point. But then yeah,
Fine.
it was an amazing experience. And if you were to ask me could you change anything on the lead up or in your story, I don't think I would, because like I wouldn't have achieved or become the person who I am today from it. So
Yeah.
I can only sit here and thank,
Yeah.
cheers to the doubters and the haters and
Yeah.
people said that you couldn't do it, because yeah, if you can really fight and see it through, you can achieve amazing things and everything that you want to achieve.
Mm. And so now legacy, mentorship, where you're being taken now, I know you are retiring from track and you are transitioning over and you are basically stepped into like a whole new space with road racing. And so how are you preparing differently for that? I mean, how exciting.
It's hard.
Mm.
I'm trying to be. So I feel I've achieved everything that I wanted to achieve on the track in terms of times, the championships, the experiences, the places. I feel I've ticked it, got the t-shirt, achieved everything, and I don't think I could have squeezed or pushed anything more out of that particular event that I was competing in for so long and what shaped me for such a
Yeah.
great time.
Mm.
Um, but it's in my blood to just never stop, never stop. So I could have easily just retired and stopped, but yeah, something inside me is saying just keep going. There's something that you can achieve still. All right,
Mm.
it might not be the track, but I'm trying to become one of the athletes in GB to get my hands on a GB vest from the track on one of the shortest distances that you can do, and also try and get my hands on a GB vest on obviously one of the longest distances that you can do, because 800-meter runners are known to potentially go up to 1500 and then stop. There's no more progression. But I'm
Mm.
trying to break down the barriers and just skip all the events and just try and yeah, just set new goals, set new targets. It's hard.
Yeah.
Training for longer distances is very, very tough when you've been sprinting and doing short work for such a long time. And I know I have to have a lot of patience in order to get to where I want to get and achieve what I want to achieve. But yeah, I'm here for it and I'm loving the struggle. I'm finding beauty in the struggle.
Also want to talk to a little bit about health outside or beyond sport, you know, the importance of well-being outside professional sport, encouraging people to prioritize their own health. And so I wanted to hear from you, I mean, from an Olympian, you know, someone who's actually been in the Olympic Games, you know, how would you say to someone who isn't necessarily an athlete, but how to actually prioritize health and wellness? What would you tell them?
I'd say keep up to, like, if something doesn't feel right within the body at all, um, go and get it checked. Go and get it push for the check. I know it's a nightmare in the UK, but if something doesn't feel right, I always say it probably isn't. Nobody knows yourself or your body better than yourself in terms of the feeling, or if something's off, or whether it's just a sense of something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even just having more discussions of people and within your friends or your family, and just being open and honest about health and just like, I feel it's such a taboo subject
Yeah.
sometimes if something is off or if something isn't right. But with anything, even if it's, it's just a space in your head that you need to declutter and, get out and just talk about. Sometimes that is just an element of health in itself, of just having that weight lifted off your shoulder.
I
So
think,
yeah, I just think keep conversations rolling with,
yeah.
people who you can trust and people who that who you feel comfortable to speak with. And just, yeah, in terms of general health, if something's not right, I'd say, yeah, just make sure that you're persistent with doctors, or, I'm sitting here now, I've got a blood test that I've just sent off for. I'm prioritizing my health, whether not necessarily to do with sport, but I know something might have felt a bit off in my body a couple of days ago, so I'm acting on it. So
That's good.
don't
I do
delay
think that's
things, and
that
act on what you
act
feel.
on something. I think that's absolutely true. And yeah, and take nutrition seriously. I mean, to really, to make sure that we know that we actually need, science tells us we need 600 gram or a pound and a half of green vegetables a day for reaching optimal health. And that is our own personal optimal health. And we are just not getting the nutrients in our diets that we used to. So to actually have that amount of green vegetables is in fact what research tells us we need to have optimal health, to have optimal nutritional health in our bodies. And so this is where having this little shot a day, this little superfood can actually really make a difference. And maybe that's what you would say to people as a simple daily thing to do. To what do you do to stay healthy and grounded daily, or sort of simple things?
The simple things for me is taking, obviously, the juices morning and evening. And I take collagen, vitamin D now. So this is all from testing. This is all from me being acting on having tests and not feeling right. And it's, yeah, and touch wood, everything's fine and everything will continue to be fine as long as you keep listening to your body.
Alex, thank you so much for sharing your incredible story. It's been
Thank you
really
so
interesting,
much.
and I think highly relevant for everyone. The challenges you've had to face, how you overcome it, but also how you have used that as a fuel to your fire and been able to kind of decide, right, I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to find my own path. I think that's absolutely incredible, despite sometimes a lack of people support. That's incredible. I really appreciate hearing that, Alex. Thank you for
Oh,
sharing.
thank you so much. Thank you for the support, and thank you for your amazing drinks that have helped and will continue to help my journey. And everybody who's listening, thank you too. And it doesn't have to be a sporting, you don't have to have a sporting background, but I just want people to know that you shouldn't let anybody tell you who you can or cannot be, or what you should or shouldn't be achieving. And there's no limit. Whatever you want to achieve, realistically, it can be done. Please let my
Absolutely.
story be an example of that. So
Yeah,
cheers,
absolutely.
Britt.
And
Cheers
thank
to
you,
you.
Alex. Yeah, thank you. Thank